Welcome to The Profile. I'm Gary Dunn, and in the hot seat tonight is one of my favourite persons of all time, Mr. Johnny Young. How are you, mate?
Gary, what have you done? You've got me here. Is this like 60 Minutes? Do I have to expose all my deep, dark secrets?
Not at all, Johnny. I'm not going to make
Because I don't have any.
You don't?
What you see is what you get.
Johnny, I wanted to ask you, where were you born?
I was born in Rotterdam, Holland. My parents were Dutch, came here when I was just born.
Yep.
I've been a West Australian boy all my life. I was raised in Subiaco, went to Perth Modern School, Subi State School, the best state school in the whole wide world. It was fantastic. Got up to a lot of mischief, but had a reasonable education.
Yep.
And then when I was 14, the whole crazy show business world opened up to me. So, you know, look, Brian Cadd said to me the most beautiful expression, and I think it's so true. Those of us who were teenagers in the 60s were the luckiest kids on the block.
Yes.
And I really feel that. You know, I was a teenager in the 60s and the world was my oyster.
Wow.
And Elvis was on the radio.
So what instruments do you play?
I learned to play guitar when I was about 8.
Yep.
A cousin of mine had a guitar, showed me 3 chords, D, G, and A.
Yep.
And I could sing every song to those 3 chords. It was a wonderful experience having an instrument to sing with, unprofessionally, but I always sang. And Mum encouraged me too. You know, she had one of those great radios. You remember our viewers will remember the radios in the 40s and 50s that had sort of like was shaped like an M and had a fantastic speaker. And Mum used to play the songs of the time. Oh My Papa by Eddie Fisher, I remember. Oh My Papa.
So she was a singer?
She sang in a choir, but it was interesting. You see, in those days, she told me that her parents were to the extreme right, and my mother wanted to sing with the only choir in town, which was the communist choir. And so my parents wouldn't allow her to sing with that choir because they were extreme, right Christian people with the Bible and the belt next to it. You know, it was pretty full on. So Mum told me she used to stand outside the hall and sing along with the choir, and loved it. So, of course, she was very happy when I took an interest in music, but I think I got it from her love of it.
Yeah.
Because she, it was just after the war. She had a terrible time during the war under the Germans and, all the stuff that went on. And she kept herself sane by listening to music. And, Dad had gone away to the war, so times were tough.
Sure.
And again, my mother escaped in music. So for me, I learned very young that there is an escape in music. There's a place you can find that can really help you in dark times.
And as a musician, I know exactly what you're talking about
it's
there.
Wonderful.
So what was can you remember the moment in your life where you decided this is what you were going to do?
Look, I had no say in it because everybody in my family was a bit dark. Because I was the youngest in the family and the rest of the family had gone through World War II and all that brought. And so there was, quite a bit. Dad had been taken away by the Germans to work in arms factories and stuff because he was a brilliant welder. And so they had a rough time.
Sure.
My grandmother got bombed out, and Mum was a very nervy person, so the war was horrible for her. So there was a lot of darkness. And I learned from her that music can lift you up. So music was my escape.
Yes.
Now, I did my first professional job. I'm going to look straight in the camera. I really want you to believe me. I did my first paid job as an entertainer when I was 2.
Whoa.
Let me tell you the story behind
Please.
it. The next door neighbour had chooks. And I was always walking around, singing songs. And the next door neighbour said to me, "Sing me a song, I'll give you a chook." So I sang him a song. I can't remember the title, but it was "Hey Baba Reba, Hey Baba Reba, da 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 da." That was an easy song to sing for a 2-year-old. "Hey Baba Reba" was about the sum total of the lyric.
Yeah.
And so I sang the song, and he gave me a chook.
Wow.
And I came home and, I watched as, well, Dad disappeared and the chook lost its head, and then it came back. Mum plucked it. And on the Sunday afternoon, the Sunday lunchtime, we had the chook in a big pot with veggies.
Wow.
And my dad, bless his soul, was so proud of me. And he told the whole family, he said, Johnny has really contributed. This was his first contribution to our family.
At 2 years old.
And as 2 years old. And I was so happy because they were happy, because they weren't often happy, So seeing them happy, caused by me, was a big deal for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so from then on in, I always participated. I sold newspapers when I was 6 on the corner of Beaufort Street outside the pub. Daily newspaper, paper, outside the Regal Theatre.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had a paper round, and I started when I was 6 and kept working from when I was 6.
Wow.
By the time I left school at 14 and started a career, I'd already worked since I was 2.
So from the age of 14...
It's a true story, man.
And from the age of 14, you were a lead vocalist in the Nomads, later known as the Strangers.
Well, again, there's a wonderful story there,
Please,
because I always loved music, and on Saturday afternoons from when I was about 11, I used to go to the Embassy Ballroom for the Hi-Fi Club dance run by Colin Nichol for 6KY, the radio station. And I used to go on Saturday morning to sing at Rumpus Room with Uncle Lionel, who did breakfast on 6KY, and Uncle Lionel ran Rumpus Room.
Talking about Lionel York.
No, Lionel Lewis.
Oh, sorry, Lionel
Lewis.
Ah,
No, long before Lionel York, who's a mate of mine too. But Lionel Lewis was exceptional, and a very, very funny man who did a very funny breakfast show. And then on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock, he did this show called Rumpus Room. And they had a studio, and all the kids would go in there, and Auntie Freddie was on the piano. It was a little blonde piano in the corner.
Not Auntie Freddie Mercury.
Auntie Freddie used to sit there and play the piano, and we'd all sing along with her. So, the show would start, and Lionel Lewis said, "Oh, welcome to Rumpus Room. We are the kids of Rumpus Room. Hear us sing and hear us boom. Uncle Lionel's in good voice. Auntie Freddie plays our choice. Gibson sweets and cotties galore make us yell for more, more, more. Rumpus Room is on its way. Rumpus Room, hip, hip, hooray. Yeah. And I tell you, it was fantastic. And I was always in the front row.
Yeah.
And then and Auntie Freddie on the piano, she was so funny because it was all kids. And she was sitting there with a fag in her mouth.
As you did in those days.
As you did in those days during the whole radio show. It was just wonderful. And she was great because she could play anything.
Fantastic story.
So after the show, one Saturday, Lionel said to me, Johnny, I see how you really want to sing. Come next week, dress up a little bit, and I'll let you sing a song on your own.
Whoa.
So Mum, I don't know whether she made it or bought it and altered it, but she made me a white jacket with sparkles on it, little diamantes and everything. And so there I was the following Saturday you got to imagine this, in my shorts with sandals and this beautiful little white jacket. And Lionel said, and here he is for the first time ever, a young Johnny Young who could be a star one day and appear on an interview program like this one. And
what can I say?
Anyway, so I was so excited, so I stepped up to the microphone. This is what I sang. Sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time. Be my little sugar and love me all the time. It was fantastic.
Wow.
And I got a round of applause, and that was it. I knew I wanted to be an entertainer, and I knew I also had the ability to overcome the nervous factor. Yeah. I was confident in front of them. In front of anything. I learnt that you win more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Yeah.
And so, I always tried to be friendly and charming. It was part of my image.
So really that was the moment.
That was the moment. That was the moment, I think, on Rumpus Room. And then my first opportunity beyond that to sing for money was on Saturday afternoon at the Embassy Ballroom in town. We had the Saturday afternoon Hi-Fi Club dance. Bill Blaine and the Dynamics were the resident band. Bill Blaine, fantastic.
Yeah.
And I was a fan. I used to be right down the front when Peter Anderson came on and sang Elvis.
Yeah.
You know, he was my idol. Peter Anderson was my idol. And I'd be down there at the front, you know, and I watched his moves. And I bought the black lame jumper with the silver sparkles through it and everything. It was fantastic. And I used to go along. And then one day, again, the same thing. The opportunity was presented to me when Colin Nichol said, you can come along next Saturday, pick 3 songs, come to the rehearsal again at 6KY in that same Rumpus Room studio. Excuse me. And it was just fantastic because George Hondras was the guitarist, was the lead guitarist, and Bill and his band.
Yeah.
And I sang Shakin' All Over, Hippie Hippie Shake, and Blue Suede Shoes.
Wow.
3 songs. They were my 3 songs. And I got to sing on that stage where I'd been watching, you know, Peter Anderson. And, you know, 500 or 600 kids at the Embassy Ballroom dance was the biggest in town.
Yeah.
And I got up there and they liked me.
Yeah.
They liked me. Wow, you know. And then I got a check. £3.10, £3.10 check, right?
It's more than we're getting these days.
It was incredible, and I took it to my dad, and I said, "Oh, Dad, can you cash this check?" It was from the Coca-Cola company.
Okay.
And Dad said, when I said, "Can you cash this check?" He said, "No, Neil, you'll have to leave it with me for a week. It might bounce."
Coca-Cola.
You know, it would bounce. So that was it, and from that. There was a band that played at the Fremantle Police Boys Club called the Nomads.
Yep.
And Don Pryor, John Eddy, Warwick Finlay,
Yep.
and
Tony Summers.
No, not Tony Summers. No, Cole Risby was the first
Yep.
guitarist. And that was the band. And their lead singer was a guy called Jim Moscata. And something happened to Jim. I think he had a car accident or something like that, and he wasn't available for the gig on the Friday night. So I was down, a bit of history here, so I'll share it with the viewers. The Friday night was the Police Boys Club in Fremantle. Saturday night was at the other ballroom in town in James Street, whatever that was called, I can't remember. And then the third dance was at the Fiesta Ballroom on Scarborough Beach Road on Wednesday night. So I'm there to see Ray Hoff and the Offbeats on the Wednesday night, and they got to dance. And I ran into Don Pryor, the bass player with the Nomads, who said, "We've had an accident with Jim Moscata. Can you learn 25 songs by Friday?" And so I said, "Give me the list." And I knew every one of the songs on the list.
Yeah.
So along I went on the Friday and sang my 25 songs. And Jimmy never got his job back. That was it. So that
Did he
was
ever
my
talk
first
to you after
band.
that?
14 years old, that was my first band.
Wow.
We changed names. Ray Hoff came over here, pinched a couple of my
I
musos.
hear Ray's name come up.
I know, he was
All
fantastic. I could rave on about Ray. He had such an influence on all of us here in WA. Yeah. With the music he introduced us to.
Yes.
We hadn't heard of Eddie Cochran. We've sort of, you know, hung out with Cliff Richard and the Shadows and Tommy Rowe, you know, all those short back and side American stars.
Yeah, yeah.
So you know, Ray introduced us to the black artists.
Yep.
And the great music that, of course, the Beatles were getting off on as well.
Yeah.
So it was a very important time. Yeah.
So you formed Johnny Young and Company?
No, well, it became. So we were only the Nomads for a short period of time, and then we had some change of membership. Cole Risby went and joined Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, and I formed another band that was already existing called The Strangers, and it became Johnny and the Strangers. Yeah. And we had some great musos. We had a fantastic time. We found, we had John Eddy, we had Tony Summers on guitar, Graham Nichol on guitar, several bass players. Who's that?
That's a name dropper.
Oh, it's a name drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as you drop some good names, I'll ring it.
Oh, okay. I can drop a few names for you. If you
I know
wish me
you can.
to. But that was the beginning of it. Very exciting times. And
We supported the Easy Beats and
well, we were successful in a strange sort of a way. We were doing those dances, Fremantle Police Boys Club, Canterbury Court Ballroom,
Yep.
and some of the other places. But during the week, the universities would have dues.
Yep.
They called them dues, university dues, and they'd have jazz during the evening because they had bow ties and all of that stuff. And they had to behave themselves. And then at 11 o'clock, Johnny and the Strangers had come on. And we'd play flat out rock and roll, The Wanderer, all that sort of stuff.
everyone
all the Eddie Cochran, all that stuff.
Yep.
And they loved it.
Oh.
They loved it. And it was very interesting. This is a little bit of inside information. We'd get a fee. That'd probably give us like £5 each to play for an hour from 11 till midnight. But then we get to midnight and they'd be, going through the
No
roof.
one wanted to go home.
Because they were all busy. So they'd come to, how much to stay a little longer? Oh, look, we don't really have an extra fee, but look, why don't you pass the hat around and then we'll do another hour or whatever you get in the hat. Well, we'd get 100, 200 quid in the hat. It was the biggest con job of all time because they were all half tanked and they just wanted to party on. Yeah. So they were all throwing 10 quid, but a lot of money for those days.
Wow.
So we did really well. And we became the most popular band in Perth, really. We drew a crowd everywhere we went. Swanbourne Stomp Saturday night was outrageous.
Yes.
500 sweaty kids, and they'd have the iridescent, the blue iridescent light, and you could see the girls' bras through the shirts, which was very thrilling for a young testosterone-filled youngster. It was mighty. And they went off. They partied. But it was all clean fun. There was no grog, no drugs, maybe a few beers down the back. But certainly with us, we'd have a couple of beers, but. No, nobody ever performed drunk on stage because we were enjoying the music too much. It was good.
So where to from there?
Well, then it all started to happen, didn't it? Because my band became really popular, and by the time I was 16, we were on Club 17, which was hosted by Gary Carvolth.
Yep.
And again, just an opportunity. We performed a song that we'd recorded at Martin Clark Studios because they didn't have really good sound at Channel 7 in those days, so we mimed this record and went really well. And they asked me would I go on Jukebox Jury, which was a segment of the show where you had to judge a record. Unknowns to me, Gary Carvolth was being promoted up to the Tonight Show hostings, IPT, which I always thought was a very unfortunate name, IPT. Oh, do you? See a doctor. And it was, so Gary was going to that. And they were looking at me on this jukebox jury and how relaxed I was and whatever. So the next week I was hosting the show.
Wow.
That was it, straight away. So again, I was relaxed and it was fun, and I learnt a lot because Coralie Condon, who was a lovely Perth icon lady.
Got to ring the bell for Coralie.
Yeah, Coralie was fantastic, and her partner Lloyd Lawson. They used to do that stuff. Another ring of the bell for Lloyd.
No, thank you. No,
thank you.
Never going to stop.
And they spoke to me about things like not dropping your H's, finishing your words. Finishing your words. And it's not what you actually say, it's how you feel. You've got to find a comfortable place inside you, because if you're nervous, people will pick it up. It's so intimate, And so if you're not comfortable, it shows up.
When I first started doing this, the first time I'd ever been in front of a camera, so it was difficult.
It is. And a lot of people, look, it's the number one fear that people have is the fear of public speaking.
Yes.
So, you know, and I've been working on writing a book called Overcoming the Fear of Public Speaking. Because ultimately, you know, the changes have to happen on the inside, and
Exactly.
and you know, it's a big conversation. But fortunately, I don't have it. You know, I'm comfortable, either in front of a microphone or in front of a camera, because I'm comfortable talking to people. You know,
Yes.
you got nothing to hide. Being famous is a nonsense. You know, you still go to bed, put your head in your own pillow.
You have to love yourself.
Well, that's a big subject, you know. A lot of entertainers find being on their own really difficult because the reason why they become entertainers is looking for acceptance. I know that's where it was for me.
Same.
Yeah, I wanted to be accepted, you know. And applause says you're accepted. Yeah, you're a good boy. You know, take a bow. And if you don't get it, it can hurt. And I've performed at some places where people have totally ignored me. You know, they just completely ignored me. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Johnny Young. Nothing. You know. I start singing All My Loving and I always get away with it. You know?
Beautiful.
They recognise that
song. That's right. And who doesn't?
Excuse my cough, a bit of hay fever.
No, that's fine. So where were we? Gary Carville.
Gary Carville. Okay. So there I was. I started becoming a television host.
Yeah.
And then 6KY offered me a job on the radio. So I was doing radio and doing television and working with my band.
Yeah.
And Club 17 became the most popular. It got 50% of the audience. Channel 9 tried to create a show in opposition to us, and they called it Pad 9 with a guy called Black, something Black, who was the host, who was a hippie. And he used to say things like, "Yeah, cool, Daddy-O," and all of that. You know,
in those days.
The kids didn't like it at all, so they had nobody watching. So we got everybody watching.
Yeah.
And so all the big stars, Normie Rowe, the Easy Beats, you know, Peter, Paul and Mary, the Dave Clark Five.
So where you built some
Bob
relationships?
Dylan, they were all guests on my show, so I saw them for 5 minutes. But the Easy Beats also performed. So after the show was over, I went in the dressing room, and there was George Young, probably the most legendary of all the songwriters in Australia.
Yeah.
And he was writing songs with Stevie Wright, not with George yet, not with Harry Vander yet.
Yeah.
It was George Young and Stevie Wright that were writing all the Easy Beat songs. Woman, oh, she's
songs.
so fine.
Yeah, just brilliant.
Yeah, just wonderful commercial songs, just totally brilliant. And so I'm in the dressing room, and there's George, and he's got his guitar. And I said, "Hey, George, have you got a song? You got a song I could record?" Never thinking he'd say yes. I was just trying to get a conversation going or whatever. I saw an opportunity. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I saw an opportunity, so I asked him. And he said, "Yeah, I've been working on this song." You know, he did all of that with his mouth. He said, "Da da 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 da, step back." That's how he do it. Fantastic. I said, "That's perfect." He said, "Stevie hasn't written the words yet, so come to our hotel in Scarborough, where they were staying, tomorrow morning, and bring a tape recorder, and I'll get Stevie to write the words."
Wow.
Now, they had a gig that night, and, you know, that I arrived being very ambitious at 8 o'clock in the morning and knocked on the Easy Beats door, and it was George that answered the door, and I looked inside, and there was all the Easy Beats and half a dozen scantily clad girls, and it looked like as you do, it looked like they'd had this incredible party, you know.
And they probably did.
So George said to Stevie, "Oh, Stevie, you got to write these words for Johnny," you know. So, and they didn't have en suites or anything. No. It was the communal.
So he just sat down and wrote some words.
No, he went to the toilet. He went to the. he wrote the words to my first hit on a toilet. and
Shit.
it came back, yeah, that's it. Came back in, and recorded the demo, which I still have.
Wow.
It's on an album. Those music nuts who would like to know these details, if you look under Clarion Collections, and there is an album, and it has the actual demo, because I recorded it on Martin Clark's very fancy tape recorder. So we had a really, and it's, you can hear it. It was just George and Stevie. Don't you now play it, cool now step, you know, terrible sounding voices, but so exciting. Great song.
Well, that's probably because they had 6 scantily clad women and was sat up all night and they couldn't do anything.
Well, you know what? They were furious because my song went to #1, and the Easy Beats had another song called Woman, which of course they'd written, but they'd recorded themselves, which got to #3. and George said to me, we were so pissed off because it was our song that kept us out of #1. You know, it was a wonderful bit of show business, but they were great to me.
Oh,
they were
unreal.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've always been very fortunate in that way, and I guess that's why I got into songwriting too, because I know how important it is to have a good song. You know, you can't fake it with songs.
No. Even during that, in the 60s there, you won a Logie.
Yeah.
You tell us about that.
Well,
67, I think.
I did Club 17 for 2.5 years, and then I was taken by my record company, Festival Records, over east to do promotion for Step Back. So they had me on Commotion, remember that? Time for Commotion, hosted by Ken Sparks, and The Go Show, hosted by Ian Turpie.
Yeah, Ian Turpie.
And a guy called Dick on the ABC who had a terrific, there's another name, Dick Williams.
Yes.
Bless his soul. ABC man, terrific.
Yeah, you have
guy.
the bell, because,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. And so, look, it was just absolutely wonderful, the support that I got. I did all these television shows. And I guess, again, because I was comfortable, because I'd had that experience here on Club 17, you know, a lot of the pop stars didn't know their way around television, but I did. I was lucky. I'd had an education, and guys like Bruce Wishart who taught me stuff about show business and being professional.
Yeah.
So there I was touring around promoting my records, and Ian Turpie decided to leave the Go Show because he was offered a lunchtime show on Channel 7.
You just happened to be there.
And I just happened to be there. And always seeing the opportunity when it presents itself.
I'm getting the picture now.
You get the picture? So they asked me, would I host the would I be happy to host the Go Show? So there I was hosting the Go Show. Olivia Newton, John, you know, all the big stars. Johnny Farriff from The Strangers, who wrote all those hits. You know, he was leading the band The Strangers, and they were a wonderful band.
Yeah.
And there comes the answer to your question half an hour ago about the change of name from The Strangers to the company. We were The Strangers until we came east. And when I came east, there was already a Strangers. That was The Strangers that were on the Go Show.
Yep.
So there I was going on the Go Show, being backed by a band called The Strangers. So I couldn't introduce my band as The Strangers. So that changed it to Company with a K.
Thanks for finally answering that question,
cool.
Johnny. That's great. So you wrote some big hits.
Well, let me tell you how that happened.
Okay.
Because you know, it was England in the 60s. It was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It was Cream. It was just an amazing time in London. Amazing. Everybody wanted to go to London. Normie went to London. He had a fantastic time.
Normie Rowe?
Normie Rowe. Yeah. And there's another drop of a name.
Yeah.
And
They must be coming.
I was, the year before last, I was in Liverpool, and they have in Liverpool, next to the Cavern Club, where the Beatles started, they have what's called the Gold Wall, which is bricks made out of gold.
Yes.
And I was standing there looking at it, and right in the middle, Normie Rowe. Normie had appeared with Gene Pitney at the Cavern Club, and on his own and with Gene. And so there he was, because all the people that had appeared there were on these gold bricks, you know what I mean? Yeah. So Normie had been to London, was all exciting, and I'd done just about all I could do in Australia. I'd had my own television shows, I'd had #1 hit records, and the pop bubble didn't last too long in those days. You know, it was maybe 2 or 3 years at the top, and then someone else come along, and someone else was about to. I didn't know it yet, but in '67, John Farnham came along. So even if I'd still been at the top, I would have been knocked off by Farnham anyway. So I decided to go to London. So for the whole of '67, I was in London.
You shared a flat with Barry Gibb.
Well, I didn't share a flat with Barry. Barry was already in London because they were friends of mine, and I'd encouraged the producers of the Go Show to have the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees found it hard to get exposure here in Australia.
Because
it was tough.
Wrote some unbelievable songs in that time.
But Spicks and Specks was the first one that got any notice, and because they were often on Bandstand, the Go Show people, you know, weren't really sure whether they wanted to support, you know, what they saw as a Sydney act.
Yes.
Anyway, I said they had to, you know, they should, because they were going to be a really big thing, and I was right. So we had them on several times, and when they were going back to England, their record went to #1 in Australia. They found out while they were on the boat.
That was Spicks and Specks.
Spicks and Specks. And so they got to London, and of course then they wrote New York Mining Disaster, and they were off and running. Then I got to London, and I rang Barry because everybody was going to London, and I was in London. And he said, well, you know, you got somewhere to stay? And I said, yeah, well, I'm looking at a flat today in Sloane Square. And he said, rubbish, come and stay at my place.
Fantastic.
So he had a 3-story apartment, and the top story was a single room that he gave to me, and there was a double bed, and at the head of the bed was a speaker, an amplifier speaker with a Union Jack across the front. And that room had been used by Pete Townsend of The Who.
Whoa.
So, and he'd left his speaker, but better ring that bell.
Pete Townsend.
So, you know, he wasn't there in the bed anymore, but, you know, he had lived there, and that was exciting for me.
Yes.
And Barry was living there with his wife, Maureen, and they made me very welcome. And Barry always had a guitar in his hand, and he was always writing beginning songs. I'm sure I heard the beginnings of songs like Words and, you know, Got to Get a Message to You and all that. But, you know, they didn't have titles. Barry was just working on chord structure and stuff. And I'd, again, seeing the opportunity, I asked him questions, you know, and what are the rules? And he said, the rule is no rules. He told me to listen to Running Scared by Roy Orbison, which is sort of based on the bolero, bolero rhythm, but it has no middle eight. It just keeps going and keeps going and keeps growing, right? So, you know, that sunk in. There are no rules.
Yes.
And that's from that theory came the real thing.
Yes.
No rules, you know. It did have sort of a chorus, but the chorus wasn't mama now, it was now and now with a guitar lick over the top of it that Molly took and made into mama now. Was brilliant. Molly was wonderful. So so I learnt about song. Yeah, Molly. You got to ring the bell.
And Ian Morris. I mean, I saw Ian Morris a little while ago doing the real thing. I saw Russell Morris doing the real thing, and just awesome.
Sensational.
Yeah, awesome band.
Look, Russell and I had a great time, and I wrote The Girl That I Love, which was his second single first, and then Molly heard The Real Thing, and then we recorded The Real Thing, and then we recorded the follow-up to The Real Thing, which was The Real Thing Part 3 into Paper Walls, and Russell often plays that in his set, where he plays The Real Thing and Part 3 into Paper Walls as one piece.
He did it the night I saw him.
It's 11 minutes. It's a symphony.
It's brilliant.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. So I've heard him do that, and we used The Girl That I Love as a B-side, which became an A-side. So I was off and running as a songwriter, and for the next 2 years, I had 5 #1 songs in a row.
I thank
as a
you, Lionel
songwriter.
Rose.
Yeah, that was
That
good
was a
song.
huge hit.
Let
So,
me thank you for just being.
in it.
He was a lovely fella and a great boxer.
Tell me about Ronnie Burns, because
Well,
you
Ronnie
wrote-
Burns was there because I'd known Ronnie for a long time. He was a mate, you know. We used to,
Thank you.
That's for Ronnie. And it was a fantastic time because Ronnie was already quite famous. He'd had a couple of minor hits.
Yeah.
Everybody's Gonna Pray on the Very Last Day. Coal Man, the Bee Gees had written a couple of songs that he recorded. And he came to me and he said, you know, will you write me a song after I'd written the stuff for Russell? I said, of course. What do you want to write about? And he said, well, I'd like to make a statement about the Vietnam War, but I don't have any personal experience, you know. He hadn't been called up and I hadn't been called up either, but
Normie Rowe.
that's it. My only experience of the Vietnam War was Normie Rowe. So I wrote the song about Normie.
Wow.
Yesterday we had laughter and songs to sing. Yesterday we had Lovin' to Burn when Normie and I used to tour. We were mates and he was happy. You know, we had a fantastic time. Yet today there's a war and there's peace to bring. When will they learn? They're the words. And because when Normie came back from Vietnam,
he was different.
He was an angry young man, as you would have noticed when he smacked Ron Casey in the back of the telly, you know. He lost it.
Yes.
And Normie's a sweetheart, beautiful man.
You're out in the world today. Smiley, you're all on your own. Smiley, hey, they say you're mad today. Boy, have you grown. Yesterday there was laughter and songs to sing. Yesterday we had
Do anything for you.
Yeah.
True mateship with
Yep.
Normie Rowe.
Yep.
I've had true mateship with Normie Rowe. 50 years we've known each other
Wow.
and supported each other, and we still work together, and we love working together,
Yep.
you know. And when we've had down times, and we both have had down times,
Yep.
he's been there for me and I've been there
Great.
for him, you know. So
Real
that
mates.
song was about my mate Normie.
Yeah.
And I called him Smiley, of course.
Wow.
So that was that. And then Rusty Wiley, who was hosting Uptight Better.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The producer wants
I've
the
got to
bell.
keep it on
He's
my
going to
neck.
keep it.
Rusty Wiley was hosting Uptight and Happening 70.
Yep.
And he'd already had a hit with a song called Funny Man. Look at there he goes, there goes the funny man. Really good song, written by the guy who did Ahab the Arab and who was that? Ray Stevens, that's him. Ray Stevens wrote Funny Man. And so Ross came to me and he said, you know, write me a song. I'll tell you, it was more embarrassing than that. I went to a meeting to have coffee with Rusty Wiley at the production office of Uptight, and he had a meeting, and I got sort of fobbed off. Oh, I got no time for a coffee now. Go and write me a song, youngie.
Whoa.
You know, sort of go write me a song, youngie. And they had a dentist chair down in the reception. So I sat in the dentist chair with a 3-string guitar, and by the time he came out of his meeting, I'd written "Here Comes the Star,"
Wow.
just in like 20 minutes.
Here's your song.
Here's your song, shove it. Yeah.
Love it.
And it was huge. You know,
Wow,
it was
fantastic.
It was a big hit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether I'm moving too far forward here, but 1990 TV Week, Logie Hall of Fame.
Look, you know, of all the things that I've done, and they have all been gifts. You know, I've had wonderful people support me, and always. And I've had a couple of wonderful wives who've also been very supportive with me too, and of course my children, and I. You know, we're very close. And I lost a son a couple of years ago to pancreatic cancer, which, you know, a lot of people will have had that experience, which was
Just terrible.
rotten, just horrible. But, you know, I had him a good long time, and he was fantastic in all aspects of the side of entertainment that I don't know anything about, which is the technical side. He was technically inclined and wound up teaching media at RMIT University. But pancreatic cancer is a nasty piece of work, and we lost him in 14 months.
Wow, terrible.
But, you know,
So sorry to do that.
the most wonderful part is that I have 2 beautiful daughters and 9 grandchildren.
I was going to ask you how many
And they
grandchildren?
sing and they dance and they do all the things. And of
You
course,
get to your own young talent time now with,
well, I
with
could.
the
but
whole
to
of
them, you see, my daughters' husbands are all fit,
Yep.
unlike their father. They are all fit. And Andrew, who's my eldest daughter Anna's husband, his dad was a member of the Melbourne Football Club premiership sides of 1960, 61, 62,
Yep.
right? So that's in the genes.
Okay.
You know, so my gene pool has expanded really
How
well.
did you
They've
become
got-
a Bombers fan then?
Well, when I went to Melbourne in 1966, the producer of the Go Show,
St Kilda won it that year, I think.
that's right.
By a point.
Yeah. Well, he picked me up from the airport and took me straight to an Essendon game.
Oh, right. That was
That game, Darryl Baldock, we tried to kick the shit out of him. Yeah. So I became an Essendon supporter, and because in Perth I was Subiaco man.
Yep.
I loved Subi. I sold newspapers at Subiaco Oval on Saturday afternoon.
They were useless then.
No,
Now
they
now
were good. They were good. Donny Glass. Yeah, I caught up with Donny Glass. Was one of the champions, and he was wonderful to us. He used to teach us
And in
boxing at the
87?
Subiaco Police Sports Club.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to express my masculinity to you here.
No worries.
You don't think I'm
look, Johnny,
limp-wristed? No.
87, you didn't decide you were going to switch to Eagles because of WA?
No, nothing like that.
Oh.
Look, I had the most successful part of my life was from 1971 to 1989.
Wow.
There was nearly 20 years of Young Talent time.
Yeah.
We worked really hard at it. It was an amazing show. We had fantastic music. You know, we had Ross Burton, and Greg Mills, and wonderful people working on it. We had players like Virgil Donati, one of the greatest drummers in the world,
Yes.
who played on Young Talent time. Charlie Gould, who was the guitarist on Midnight Bus for Betty McRae,
Yes.
was playing in my band. You know, it was just a wonderful time. And we loved it. And we had great kids, wonderful kids.
And look how successful Jamie Redfern.
All of it. Well,
you know.
Jamie had an American trip that was to die for, and he had a wonderful time. Deborah Byrne became Queen of Pop, and she had a wonderful career.
Yeah,
She doesn't want to remember her Young Talent time career with much fondness because everybody else does, and Deb has the habit of taking the opposite point of view. If somebody says white, she'll say black, just to be different, you know. But she was fantastic.
And Tina Arena, my cameraman here, Strawny. He's just in love with Tina, aren't you?
She's fantastic. I spoke to her 2 days ago. I'm going to see her Melbourne show of Evita.
What a voice.
With her mum.
And what a voice, huh?
Sensational.
Oh,
But what a
unbelievable.
mensch. What a
Yes.
woman. What a fantastic girl. Tough, strong, you know, takes no prisoners. And she sings. Well, it's got to be up there with amongst the top 10 voices I've heard.
I
in popular
totally agree.
music.
Totally agree. Are you a father figure to all of these?
Elder brother,
still?
probably.
Elder brother?
Yeah, you may have, I'm 72 now, but I started Young Talent time when I was 24.
Well,
So these kids were only a few years younger than me, you know. So I was like, and I came straight out of the pop scene as a songwriter and a singer. So they'd always have me sing, you know, a little medley of rock and roll songs here and there on Young Talent time. And it was the perfect marriage because, you know, it just made sense to me. And I grew up with Rumpus Room and the Mickey Mouse Club. And Young Talent time was Mickey Mouse Club.
and that's
in
what
its
I
essence.
grew up with,
Yeah,
Young Talent time.
That's it,
you know,
yeah.
So,
But I loved it. I loved, and when you think about that closing, All My Loving, and it was, you know, it was a hit for me in '67, without Young Talent time. And then when we were looking for a closing, I was thinking about that wonderful closing to the Mickey Mouse Club, when Jimmy and the kids would sit together in a circle like I did at the end of Young Talent Time, and they'd sing, "Now it's time to say goodbye to all our family. M-I-C, see you real soon. K-E-Y, why? Because we like you. M-O-U-S-E." That was wonderful. It was just wonderful. And that was my childhood. You know, that's where that fit with my love of music and what it did for me, because that feeling was what I wanted for Young Talent Time. I guess because of the instability in my own family, I found it in that Young Talent Time environment, because, you know, it was, as soon as Young Talent Time started, I got married and I had my kids. So I had to, you know, I went from being a rock and roll singer and songwriter who liked to chuff here and there to, you know.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
No, you know what I mean. You know, our audiences aren't innocent. They know
Of
they
course
were.
they're not.
The 60s was wild, and I went straight from that world into the world of Young Talent Time and young people, you know. So I had to straighten up and fly right.
Yes.
Straighten up and fly.
Right. So, okay, where do we go to from here?
Well,
you tell me.
Yeah, well, that's about the story, because I did 20 years of Young Talent Time, and then when that finished, I went back into radio. I have always loved radio, and after Young Talent Time, anything on television was too hard to top. You know what I mean? It was such a success story. Everybody expected me to do something else, but as Darryl Summers discovered too, second time round is not always.
No, that's correct.
You know,
Yeah.
and they tried to do, Channel 10 tried to do Young Talent Time again, and it didn't quite work because it wasn't Johnny and the Kids.
No, that's right.
And that was the special sort of ingredient that we
Yes.
were actually living it and loving it.
Yeah.
Plus, I had sensational kids. You know, they were very, very talented, all of them in their own way.
I just wanted to be one of them.
Yeah, that's
you
it.
know, so-
Yeah. So that was it until 1989, and then back into radio, and that's sort of what I've been doing ever since. You know, just doing my radio. I did 10 years of breakfast on 6
Well, Narelle Bell is a good
that's
friend
right.
of mine. I think
Narelle
she was
Bell, she's
producing.
fabulous.
Yeah.
So we had fun on the radio, and currently I do a radio program in Sydney every night from 7 till midnight, and I still get my band together here and there and shake a leg, you know, sing a bit of rock and roll.
What sort of songs are they playing on your radio show, or do you play?
60s and 70s.
Yep, cool.
That's it. That's all I play.
Yep.
Because that's my world, you know.
And you've just doubled your
Beatles,
ratings.
everything, yeah. And
The ratings are.
that was it. Yeah, well, it went down a little bit the time before, and then I thought, oh, am I not doing any good? And then all of a sudden it doubled on me. But, you know, you learn that you can't live by ratings.
Yeah.
You got to be sincere about what you do, and as my dad used to say, job worth doing is worth doing well. So whatever I do, I try and do my best, you know.
So, what would your favourite band be of all time?
Beatles, always.
Beatles, yep.
Yeah. Favourite singer, Elvis Presley, have to be.
Yep. And if you were stranded on a deserted island,
Yeah,
And
I'd
you could
like to
only
be
take-
accompanied by Elvis Presley and the Beatles, thank you.
if you can only take one album with you, what would that be?
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Okay.
And let me explain that. I love all kinds of music.
Yep.
I love all kinds of conversation, you know. I do listen to the ABC. I think they do wonderful current affairs and stuff.
Yep.
But when I want to hear my music, I listen to my station, 2CH. We play 60s and 70s, Beatles, Stones, new, Small Faces, you know, everything. And those who were baby boomers who grew up with me listened to it.
Yeah.
So I like to think that the people who listen to me are the ones I grew up
Yeah.
with.
Is Narelle still helping you on that? Or
No,
you
no.
just-
Well, I do that in Sydney. See,
Okay.
Narelle has started a fantastic new career doing
Karen.
the Karen Carpenter music, and she doesn't need Johnny. She's got her own audience that she can satisfy.
Love
No,
it.
she's great, Narelle.
Yeah.
And look, it's been a part of my life. You know, I love giving people opportunities because opportunities were given to me.
Yes. Yeah, you
And
understand.
I'm eternally grateful to the Bruce Wisharts and The guy I mentioned before from 6KY, Colin Nichol, you know, he started my career. He gave me an opportunity to perform. Didn't have to. Had faith in me.
Yes.
Liked my passion and my enthusiasm, you know. And I feel the same when I see somebody like Narelle who really, really, really wants to do something. I'll try and turn or use every influence I can to make it happen for them, because you know, if you've got that passion, it's got to be fulfilled.
Yes, exactly right. So, what unfulfilled ambitions do you have? Do you have any?
To die in my sleep. You know, I don't want to be sitting in the corner dribbling, but I think I have enough passion for life to hang in until I'm 80-something.
Good.
And look, this will sound very simple, but I do have 9 of the most incredible grandchildren, and they're all different. Every one of them is unique in their own way.
Isn't it the most wonderful thing? I've only
It's
got 4 of them.
It's an amazing feeling. And look, there'll be plenty of people listening who have that experience, and it's precious to me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make as much room as I can.
Good for you.
I've already had my eldest daughter here. She left 2 weeks ago with 4 of her kids. And then my other daughter is coming, and then my son's children are coming at Christmas time.
Fantastic.
So, you know, they love coming to Perth. They know how much I love it here, and we've got a nice house, and they have a good time.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you know, my joy, I think, is going to be watching their talent develop.
Yes.
You know, that's a mind-blowing thing. I took them flying the other day, you know, in that thing where they, you know, blow the air and you actually fly.
Yeah.
And I took them
Skydiving
doing
place.
it, and I'm chicken shit. You know, you never get me doing any of that stuff. And there they were.
Yeah, just going for it.
Oh, going for it, yeah. So I think they've got a bit of passion and adventure, and I just want to watch them do their thing.
Great. Fantastic.
And, you know, sing a song here and there and have a lovely interview like this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've just totally enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It's
We've
wonderful.
got a few more questions
Oh,
to go.
okay. Come
Okay,
on.
Just keep you for...
Good to see you again.
So, your favourite TV show growing up?
Mickey Mouse Club.
Mickey Mouse Club? I have to ask these questions.
Yeah, no, go. Absolutely. Mickey Mouse Club, definitely.
Do you collect anything? Like little toy soldiers or...
It's a good question. I collect history books.
History books? Yeah.
Yeah, I study history.
Yeah.
I love reading history. I've just read the most remarkable books on the history of Christianity.
Yeah.
I've got a very inquisitive mind, and I love to read. And if I have a hobby away from music, it's history, yeah.
Wow.
In particular, Christian history, yeah.
Is there a reason for that, or...?
Just an interest,
Yep.
you know. I've my mother was a Christian who spent her life in sorrow,
Yes.
you know, and so I there's got to be more to Christianity than we've been told is my personal belief system. I believe in Christianity. I believe in God. I've had a hand at my back during my entire life, you know, so I can't deny the presence of a greater power. But, you know, I don't want to believe in fairy stories.
Yeah.
So I've been studying history to get the real story. And those who want to believe fairy stories, that's okay. But
Yes.
you know, I like the real thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I found.
You wrote a song about that, I think.
I found, you'll love this, I found this old wooden wheel that was several hundred years old. It was from a wooden cart, you know, that somebody would have carted things on a farm, but no rubber, just a wooden wheel.
Just a solid wooden, no spokes or anything like that in it, you know.
No.
Here we go, turn it off.
Yeah, turn it up. Just push
Just
it.
Johnny's phone. Narelle, it's okay. He didn't say too much bad about you.
No. What we were talking about?
It's about that
sorry.
wooden wheel.
Oh, yeah, the wooden wheel. Okay. So I had it put in a frame. It's in my lounge room.
Wow.
And guess what it's called? The wheel thing.
The wheel thing.
Very good.
Oh, that's...
It's
Ooh,
excellent piece of art.
Would
Wonderful.
that wabbit. With that wabbit.
Okay, next question.
Okay, what would you put on your gravestone?
Wow, okay. I don't know whether I'd put it on, but the feeling that I have is I had a wonderful time.
Yep. Fantastic.
You know, a few tough things along the way, but you know, I'm the luckiest kid in the block. Really, I
Great
am.
thing to put
you
on.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. I should put that on my
I'm
gravestone.
the luckiest kid on the block.
Well, I'm the luckiest kid in the block, yeah. But I am, you know, I feel from nothing, you know. There's a lot of people like me, so I'm not, you know, people say, you ever going to write a book and stuff, and then I meet these incredible people who aren't perhaps famous, but their story is fabulous,
Yes.
and you know, it would make a wonderful book. And so, you know, I'm not that into writing a book, and I'm definitely not into writing a book that would put shit on anybody else.
Yeah.
If I write a book, and I probably will, it'll be a celebration, not a condemnation.
Yes. Fantastic.
It's not my story, really.
Half glass full.
Always,
Yes.
always, absolutely. And I feel very sad for people who have a miserable time, and a lot of people do.
And yeah, well, some people can't help it, I suppose, because of their situation. Like
Absolutely.
you know, like you were talking about your parents before being bombed, Germans, and the war.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
Normie Rowe, all that horrible fighting, and
Well, you know, I mean, the people that I love, the Vietnam vets, I'm very close to the Vietnam vet community because they actually walk their talk, you know.
Yeah.
They went and did it.
Well, Eddie Storm we had on recently, he does a lot
Yeah.
for them. He goes did the Vietnam thing and went and
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, these guys get damaged permanently.
Yeah.
That's the sad part about it. So it's not just their suffering, it's their family suffering.
And we're hearing more about mental health all the time, and depression, and
Yes.
yeah, it's
Well, you know, look, I've known a few people who've done it tough and who've made mistakes and who've wound up sometimes on the wrong side of the law. And I'm not an easy forgiver, you know. If you do shit, you can expect shit, is my philosophy. If you do the wrong thing, especially these days, you know. I mean, wouldn't it be an incredible story? Yeah, Johnny Young was a secret pedophile. Wouldn't the media just absolutely love that, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I don't have those inclinations, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a horror story. That whole thing is a horror story.
Well, there's people coming out left, right, and centre saying all sorts of stuff.
All over the place. But I believe if you did the wrong thing,
Maybe
you just
deserve it
you deserve it.
sometime.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Because some of these, you know, and it's not just the churches, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And you know, I've spoken to some friends of mine, and like them, I had a couple of experiences when I was 12, 13 years old where I could have wound up in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, you can't read these mongrels. They're out there in the community. You can't read them. They find really clever ways of ingratiating themselves with you. And a couple of times I nearly got caught. Fortunately, I never did get raped or molested or anything. But certainly I was a handsome young boy, and I felt those pressures, you know. And some of my mates from school, and even those things, really hard to talk about these days.
Absolutely.
You know? But I'm at an age now where I'm happy to talk about that stuff because it's got to be gone.
Yes.
You know, Rolf Harris is a bloody disgrace. And what a shame, because I was such an admirer of his talent, you know, wonderful talent. But what a scumbag.
Yeah.
And a scumbag's a scumbag. You got to call it that, you know. And if I did the wrong thing, I would expect that to happen. But fortunately, you know, I have a reasonably good reputation, beyond the fact that I was a bit of a root rat in my team.
You know, we all were. I mean,
Oh, there's my bell. I'm ringing my own
anyway.
bell.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
That's one for me.
Yes. So, last question.
Yeah.
Is this, and there's no pressure to answer this question, is there something we don't know that the viewers don't know, that something about yourself that you don't really tell anyone, or anything you want to share with us?
I guess the thing that I've found during my life is that because I've never let an obstacle stand in the way, you know, and what I mean by obstacle is I've had incredible waves of fear about to step out in front of 100,000 people at the Maya Music Bowl to do a concert. Enormous, you know. And I've found a way around that. It's very personal, and it's through meditation, finding the silent part inside me before I step out.
Wow.
To come into a performance from a place of silence is a beautiful way to start. So, you know, I guess the only thing I would like people to know is that I'm perhaps a bit more sensitive than I present. I present confidently because I've found as a 2-year-old the way to overcome those fears, you know. But I still have an enormous amount of shyness. And I had one huge problem, and it was really irritating me that I had this problem. So I spoke to Normie about it, Normie Rowe. I said to Normie, Norm, I have a problem. When people pay me a compliment and say how terrific I am, I really don't know how to answer. You know, I find it really uncomfortable when people say, oh, I love your show. Oh, you know, you're just like, whoa, you know, full on. But they don't know, but I'm inside. I'm
Anxiety.
going, oh. So I said, how should I handle that? And Norm said, take them by the hand and say, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. That's
simple.
all you got to say.
It's very simple, isn't it?
Very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So that's what I do now. But I still have, you wanted to know the secret part of me, really, really shy little boy who learned how to win flies with honey instead of vinegar, you know. I learned that you win more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So I've always tried to be as charming as I can be. And it's worked for me. Hey, I keep fooling them.
I think you charmed me tonight. No.
Thank you.
Well, it's really, honestly, fantastic just sitting here with you and hearing your stories. And I really appreciate you coming in. I'm sure all our viewers will appreciate watching this. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you. That's very sincere and lovely of you. And can I say to all those people who are watching this, thank you for your support since I was 2 years old, and I've always felt it. You know, that's the one thing that I've always felt is that the audiences like me, and that's a precious gift to have.
Lucky you stepped out at 2 and sang for that chicken, I reckon.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching The Profile, www.theprofile.com.au. Go on, check all of the interviews out, and particularly this one with Johnny, and thanks for being with us. See you next time.
Sunny, yesterday my life was filled with rain. Sunny, you smiled at me and really eased the pain. Now the dark days are gone and the bright days are here. My sunny one shines so sincere, sunny one so true, I love you. Sunny, thank you for the sunshine you gave. Sunny, thank you for the love you brought my way. You gave to me your all and all. Now I feel 10 feet tall. Sunny, sunny one so true, I love you. Sunny, thank you for the truth you let me see. Sunny, thank you for the facts from A to Z. My life was torn like a windblown sand, then our love was formed when you held my hand. Ah, sunny one so true, I love you. Sunny, thank you for the smile upon your face. Sunny, thank you for that warm and fuzzy place. You're my spark of nature's fire. my sweet, complete desire. Ah, sunny one so true, yes, I love you. Sunny, yesterday my life was filled with rain. Sunny, you smiled at me and really eased the pain. Now the dark days are gone and the bright days are here. My sunny one shines so sincere. Sunny, oh, sunny one so true. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. This is my day as I look around. The world is alive with music, a wonderful feeling. And my heart seems to know it's a sunny day, and the world is turning out fine. It's a sunny day, and this feeling is mine, 'cause this is my day. This wonderful day, I look for a sign. My sign is the sound of music, a wonderful feeling, a glow, and my heart seems to know it's a sunny day, and the world is turning out fine. It's a sunny day, and the feeling is mine, 'cause this is my This is my day as I look around. The world is alive with music, a wonderful feeling, a glow, and my heart seems to know it's a sunny day. The world is turning out fine. It's a sunny day, and this world is all mine. It's a sunny day.
At ProCopy, we can transfer audio to CD, make CD, DVD and Blu-ray copies, transfer video to DVD, Blu-ray or HD, digitise slides and photos and supply custom USBs. You can see more details at procopy.com.au or call us on 08 9375 3902 for more information.